everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's first video. So we've got weekend forecast coming up later on. I'll be with you this afternoon. And tonight we're going to be having a look at the Can 6 model for the next 6 months at website Tropical Tidbits. So plenty coming up at website today. But this is the December month-head forecast from GasLovich.com. We're going to have a look at the CFSB2 and Beijing Climate Centre models, see what they're showing for December. And then we're going to try and do a bit of a forecast this final month of the year. Also have a quick review of November, and we'll have a sneak peek at the end for the first month of 2017 for January. So before I get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on the page. Have a browse which you see, click through links. You're going to be helping us to pay for our website. And thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads, most of the pages, which own that content. When you watch, they close back up again, and it does help to pay. Don't forget, you can still do your Christmas shopping at the Christmas shop via the Amazon banners. So check that out if you'd like to do that. So let's just start off with what happened in November. So the GasLovich November 2016 forecast was for a slightly colder and a slightly drier than average month. Quite a gamble, we thought, because most of the months during this year, 2016, have tended to be above average, warmer than average. But we had a bit of a gamble and said we thought it was likely to be cold and average based on the signals for November. And that is indeed what has happened. So this is the early stats from the Central England region. It's not the UK-wide statistics yet. We're going to wait a bit longer for those. But for the Central England region, has indeed been a colder than average month. We came out with a central temperature of 5.6 degrees, an anomaly of around 1 degree below average. That's quite a big anomaly, actually, because this is set against 61 to 1990, the old and cold temperature average that encompasses the really cold decade of the 1960s, which had lots of cold winters and also pretty dismal summers and pretty cold autumns at times as well. So, set against 61 to 1990 would come out around a degree colder than average. And if you was to set that against more modern average, let's say 81 to 2010, I think you would probably find an even bigger anomaly, maybe going on to 1.5 degrees colder than average. So substantially and really quite significantly colder than average November, I should say, has occurred. And maybe ever so slightly colder than we anticipated, but at least was in the right direction, going for a colder than average month. Also been a pretty dry month as well, so that side of the forecast came off. We said there was likely to be more frost and snow around during November than we've been used to, certainly in recent Novembers, and I think that came off. Not really much snow down in the south of the country, but certainly places like Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, some parts of North Wales did get some early snowfall. So all in all, I'm quite pleased with how the November month-head forecast panned out. In terms of the autumn, I'll be doing the verification of the autumn forecast in a few days' time when all the statistics are in at the UK Met Office. It'll be sometime next week. Been a very odd autumn, really. It started off very warm in September with September central temperature of 16 degrees, around 2.5 degrees warmer than average. Then we had a big cool down in October, which came out very close to average, and it continued to cool in November, and we had this significantly cold average month. So it's definitely been an autumn that started off warm and then ended up quite cold. We did go for warmer than average autumn. I suspect we have come out with a warmer than average autumn, really purely because of how warm September was, which sort of skewers everything else. What's happening in October and November, I don't think will be enough to offset the warmth that we had in September. So we probably will come out warmer than average, but we await with bated breath the final statistics for the autumn of 2016, so we can do that verification. So all in all, quite pleased with the November forecast this month. Right, let's go on and have a look at December then, and this is the 700 millibar height anomaly chart from the CFSB2 for December, for the final month of the year. Very much a trough ridge pattern that we've got going here. So we've got a strong ridge just there, we've got a strong trough just there, another strong ridge over in the eastern part of America, trough in the Atlantic, then then that places us close to a ridge in Western Europe, and then another trough across Scandinavia, going into eastern parts of Europe, with the jet stream tending to do something rather like that. So it really is a very much a trough ridge type pattern. What CFS is doing, it's placing us on the mild side of the ridge as the anomaly for this month. It's a very close run thing. We're going to take this trough here to back a bit further westwards, and we'll be placed on the cold side of the trough. But it is placing us on the milder side of the trough and the ridge for December. So the upshot of that is that Western Europe tends to come out a little bit milder than average. This is the temperature anomaly from the CFS V2 for December. Notice a very cold month being forecast for much of Eastern and Southeastern Europe. Expect to see those scenes, but I know frustrate cold lovers so much, where you get snow turning up in places like Athens, and in Greece and Turkey they get the snow and we don't. So it looks like the southeast of Europe is coming out colder than average, and the north and western Europe is generally coming out a little bit milder than average. It's not a big deviation. It's not an exceptionally mild December being forecast here by any means. Nothing like what we had last year, which was easily the warmest December since records began in 1659. Nothing like that being suggested by CFS V2. Just an average to little bit milder than average. Precipitation comes out like this. It's looking another significantly drier than average a month, not just for the UK, but for many parts of Western Europe as well. The precipitation anomalies are above average over eastern parts of Europe, and of course some of that could be snow because it's quite cold. So generally a fairly mildish and dryish month, and fairly quiet month really being seen by CFS V2. Let's have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre, and we're going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly from the Beijing Climate Centre. So this anomaly is taking us from the 26th of November through 25th of December. So it doesn't quite cover the full period of December just yet. But what we're seeing with this anomaly is that we've got a ridge up to the northwest of the UK, and a trough is down to the south. So it looks quite anticyclonic again, but it's a slightly different position to what CFS is doing. Again, we've got this deep trough over the northeastern and eastern part of Europe over there. We're almost being placed on the cold side of the jet stream with that, I think. Again, it's lots of settled weather being included in that, but I think it's a little bit colder, really, than what the CFS V2 is predicting. Temperature anomalies are still coming out around or ever so slightly milder than average. Notice most parts of Scandinavia and Eastern Europe coming out colder than average for December. And precipitation, that's almost coming out drier than average across the whole country as well. So we've got pretty good agreement really between the CFS and the Beige Climate Centre for the way forward through December, and it looks overall quite an anticyclonic signal. There will be unsettled spells coming through, of course, because it's winter, but as of the anomaly overall for the month, it looks a fairly anticyclonic signal, so fairly dry, and temperature's not overly cold, just about coming out a little bit above average. Now, what this doesn't show, because they're 30-day anomalies, so it doesn't show the potential for changes later on in the month. I think what's going to happen this December is that the first half will actually come out quite mild, although the first few days obviously are quite cold, what we're in right now. But I think as the anomaly for the first half of the month probably comes out a little bit above average. But then I suspect the second half of the month will turn colder. You can't really make that out from these 30-day anomaly charts. So what I'm going to suggest actually is that we come out very close to average with the temperatures this December. It might be a little bit above average, it might even be a little bit below average, but not a big deviation, so very close to average with the temperatures. And precipitation, I would have thought, does come out drier than average, although we do go through quite a wet spell as we run up toward the middle part of the month. But then I suspect it turns drier again in the second half of the month. But the key thing about this December, I think, is going to be that the first half is relatively mild after a cold start, and then the second half might start off quite mild, but turns colder later. So we get towards Christmas and the end of the month and up towards the new year, and I suspect we will get some sort of colder weather coming through. How cold that gets will determine whether the month is a little bit milder or a little bit colder than average. But I suspect we do get cold coming back later in the month. So that's what the GasWeather.com December monthly forecast is going to go for, in line with our winter forecast, which is for very mildish first half after a cold opening, and then mild just into the second half before it turns colder later on in the month, towards the final week or so of December. That could be quite a potent cold spell. So, but it's very uncertain. We're going to have to wait and see how cold that can get through the final week or so of December. But I do think there is the chance this year of a colder Christmas, certainly compared to what we've had over recent years. We'll see how it goes. We'll evaluate as ever when we do the January forecast. And talking of January, this finally is the CFS V2 700 millibar height anomaly for January 2017. On the face of it, it looks quite an unsettled month with a trough of low pressure out to the west. We've got ridging over here across eastern parts of Europe. And looks like the Azores high down here is quite weak and displaced a little bit towards Bermuda, actually, which tends to be a signal for quite a cold month for us normally. But it's just really showing westerlies coming through. However, we have got a bit of yellow up here, which is hints of above average heights way to the north. On this chart, it's not enough to be impacting anything, but it will be a case of watch your space and see whether that sort of blocking signal is upgraded as we get through to January. The winter forecast suggested that January might be the coldest month of the three this winter. Not continuously cold, but with cold tending to come and go. So we'll see what January has in store this time next month. We'll worry about that when we get to it. Finally coming back to the December forecast. So I think we're going to have temperatures coming out very close to average. It might be ever so slightly on either side, but it won't be a big deviation, I don't think. Certainly nothing like we had in December 2015, which was warmth on steroids, if you like, in terms of how hot it got. It really was a very unusually, abnormally hot month. I say hot rather than warm because the anomaly was something ridiculous, like 5 or 6 degrees above average. It was an incredible December. Nothing like that this year. So average, close to average temperatures. I think it comes out drier than average, although we do get a wet spell in the first part of the month. And then watch out for the cold to come back later on in the month. That's the plan. We'll see how it pans out. And as ever, we will evaluate when we do next month's month-ahead forecast. Right, come back for the weekend forecast later on this afternoon. And tonight we'll have a 6-month look ahead with the Kansas model. So come back for all of the updates. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.